This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good looking friends. I hope everybody's had a nice weekend. This is just a follow up to yesterday's video. A couple things that I didn't get to add in due to the video being already over 30 minutes. So I didn't want to overload you on too much information, but we're going to pick right back up and continue on. So this weekend, not only did Harry and Meghan have the cover of In Touch Weekly here in the United States, but Meghan also had the cover over in the UK, featured on Heat. It's another tabloid magazine going with the narrative of Harry wanting to spend the holidays now in the UK. So let's go through it. It's a very quick article, and then we'll jump into the other things that didn't get a chance to put into yesterday's video. Meghan vows we'll be doing Christmas my way. She's putting her foot down and quashing Harry's festive hopes. Okay, Meghan. Yikes. Look at Meghan's clenched jaw. I'm actually getting a headache looking at this photo. Anyhow, let's begin. The most wonderful time of the year is fast approaching, but over in Montecito, it's shaping up to be anything but, as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle row over their Christmas plans. The Sussexes have been NFI at Buckingham Palace ever since they stepped down as senior royals in 2020 and proceeded to burn all remaining bridges with the royals. But over the past year, Harry has reportedly been pulling out all the stops to make peace, and his attempts might be working. Rumor has it that for the first time in 6 years, he might be invited to spend Christmas at Sandringham. Now, really, who actually believes that? What I do think has a little bit of truth to it is that Harry is most likely trying to get back home. The question of is he successful, that's anyone's guess. But the fact that there have been so many of these articles coming out about Harry wanting to reconcile and making every attempt to connect back with his family and missing home and missing his friends, and there has to be something to that. And I said in yesterday's video that I do believe that whoever it is that's rehabilitating Harry's image, which it does feel like it's very much the palace, are trying to rehabilitate his image to bring him back. Now, that's just my opinion, but at this point, it's anybody's guess. And even if he doesn't make the cut, his options are mounting, as he's also been asked by Princess Diana's side of the family to spend the festive season at the Spencer ancestral home of Althorp House. However, those two options seem to be at odds with Meghan's vision for a Californian Christmas. But while Harry naturally wants his wife and kids to have the perfect holiday season, the prospect of a reconciliation has him wanting Meghan to think about a visit to the UK. And according to insiders, the uncertainty is causing all kinds of friction, and it's leading to one almighty festive showdown. It's such an important time of the year for Meghan, says an insider close to the Sussexes, who last spent Christmas with the royals in 2018. Her festive memories from childhood are something she still talks about and romanticizes. I'm sorry, I'm really trying to keep a straight face here. Now, we know that this is a whole lot of bullcrap. For the past 4 years that they have been here in the United States, Meghan has kept Harry from his family, allegedly. In addition, we are now learning that everything about Meghan's childhood has been one fat lie. Now, if we are to go off of the forced and inconsistent narratives by the people that call themselves the Markles, then you would think that Meghan would be spending time with her family and connecting with them. But according to them, they haven't spoken since right before Meghan got married. So, how is it that Meghan wants to relive her childhood festive memories when she's cut her whole entire family off, allegedly? And this is what makes these stories so stupid and unbelievable. She's got all sorts of traditions to uphold, and of course, she wants her husband to enjoy them too. She wants them to catch up with friends and do all the fun things such as wrapping gifts and sending out cards. She'll also want to make a big dinner and create memories to last a lifetime. So the fact that Harry would even think about them being elsewhere is hurtful. As far as she's concerned, this is a time when they should be strengthening their relationship. Though Meghan and Harry were once inseparable, they've recently upped their efforts to take on solo projects in an apparent attempt to turn around the negative press they received last year. While Harry has been busy traveling in recent months, undertaking several trips to the UK, plus visits to New York, Lesotho, and South Africa for charity work, Meghan's been holding down the fort in LA while also undertaking several solo appearances herself. But the question over where Harry and his family spends Christmas is a tricky one to solve as he tries to heal old wounds with his family. Having publicly lashed out at them for so long, he's changed his tune, not least since learning of King Charles and Catherine Middleton's cancer battles. And just as Meghan has her own traditions, Harry has many happy memories of spending royal Christmases at Sandringham. However, bringing Meghan and the kids to the UK, considering the mutual friction between her and her in laws, plus his vocal concerns for her and their children's safety on UK soil, makes it a complicated option. And trying to convince Meghan it's worth considering is causing bust ups in the process. In her view, it's crucial for them all to be at home in Montecito during the holidays, especially after the strain they've been under lately, we're told. Meghan sees this as a time to press pause and work through any lingering issues. The idea of Harry getting her to agree to Christmas in the UK with the royal family is laughable. You can say that again. Look, we all know that these articles are pure garbage. None of it can be believed. And when you think about it, look at the past 4 years. What have Meghan and Harry done to keep up with so called holiday traditions? For instance, neither of them speak to their families, so who are the kids getting to get gifts from? When you look at Archie and little Betty, you would think maybe Meghan would be clever enough to rent two kids and go get a picture with Santa Claus. Like, how long are they going to continue and keep up with this charade? In the beginning, it worked because nobody knew how they manipulated and used the media. But now that we understand it a bit better, none of this can be believed. And it's almost comical to hear these various stories. The sad part about it, though, is that there still are people out there that do believe that Harry and Meghan will be divorcing and are having marriage troubles and continuing on with these narratives when all this is smoke and mirrors. Now, the whole point of me bringing these articles to you is for you to see how ridiculous and ludicrous all of this is, especially when you see others who are continuing with the narrative, either because they truly believe it and trust what the media and influencers are saying, or they understand that it's more profitable to continue on with this gossip and speculation. It will take each and every one of us to come to our own conclusion at our own time on what's real and what's not. And when I read these articles, for me, I see this whole situation, saga, whatever you want to call it, very differently now as a result of seeing how we've been manipulated. And that is going through all the evidence that I have presented thus far on this channel. The last 4 years for me have been eye opening in witnessing how the media actually operates here in the United States, as well as seeing how the Royal Rota works in the UK. And a lot of the things that I have talked about on this channel are things that are worthy of investigation and to be amplified. So, in my mind, I think, why is it some of this stuff is not catching on? Why is it that some of these journalists who are part of the mainstream media not picking up on it and writing about it? And to me, the only conclusion that I can come to is that definitely it's controlled, but also dictated as to when certain narratives can be pushed out. And I'm talking controlled by Harry and Meghan, controlled by the royal family, and controlled by whoever else has been operating the psyops. Because you sit and you wonder, this information that's being put forward in some of the investigations that I've done, such as the trolling and the bots and this cyber warfare that Harry and Meghan have unleashed onto the public unknowingly, that none of these journalists want to explore or take a look at it and say, you know what, you're right. This is tied to affecting American civil rights and amplifying it. We have a British prince on U.S. soil who has been undermining the U.S. Constitution for the past 4 years, not only supporting but also funding entities that are part of this censorship industrial complex. In addition, Harry has been actively engaged with Aspen Digital, which is an entity of the Aspen Institute, same institute that held the tabletop exercise on suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story affecting the outcome of the 2020 election. Yeah, I find it very disheartening that even the Heritage Foundation had been alerted about this and silence. Niall Gardner couldn't be bothered with this. But I'm going to continue to keep pressing on because what has happened and is still happening to many of us is wrong. So now circling back to yesterday's video, the points that I want to add here that I didn't get a chance to put in yesterday's video was talking about how these two continue to keep lying to the public. And I thought about back when Harry and Meghan did the Oprah interview and how Harry got up there with Meghan and they lied their faces off. And then soon after, it was announced that Harry was going to be on the Aspen Commission on Information Disorder tackling mis and disinformation. And I think a lot of you, like myself, had thought, how is it that they're allowing this super spreader of mis and disinformation on a commission to tell us what we can and cannot say, as well as how to regulate it? I always found it baffling that here's a group of people who talk so much about truth, and here they are allowing this guy who is a super spreader of misinformation be a part of this. Like, I could never understand why that was allowed until recently. And it was only until seeing this video and talking about how these two have been using AI to lie and fool the masses, it then makes me think that Renee DiResta and everybody else absolutely understood what Harry and Meghan have been doing. Now, yesterday, I talked a little bit about this new nonprofit AI detection company where Kate Starbird, as well as Renee DiResta, now sit on their scientific advisory board. And I brought this up yesterday because I ran this video of Harry and Meghan through the tool, of which it came back as manipulated. The point that I want to make here are the connections to Prince Harry. I'd like to remind everyone that Harry's relationship with Renee DiResta goes back as far as the middle of 2020, around the same time Aspen did that tabletop exercise to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story. I'm not saying that Harry knows about it. He might, which gives a good reason to question him. And then again, we see Harry with Renee DiResta and Rashad Robinson from Color of Change, a political action committee pushing for Biden and Kamala to get into office, on a Wired interview, of which Harry had mentioned that he knew about January 6th. Again, nobody questioned him. I'm just showing you Harry's engagement and interaction with the same people who are part of this censorship industrial complex. Now, I mentioned yesterday that Microsoft is TrueMedia.org's biggest partner here. And you know who sits on the board at Microsoft? Reid Hoffman. And he's a big endorser of TrueMedia.org. So where am I going with this? Reid Hoffman has put a lot of money into the Demon Rat Party, especially with this last election, backing Kamala as one of Kamala's mega donors. Now, why would he want to do that? Could it be that he's afraid of something?
500 or 600 January 6 protesters in prison, and not one person on the Epstein client list.
Will that ever come out, do you think?
You know, I think part of why Kamala's getting so much support is that if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public.
Yes.
And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome.
Yeah. Do you think Reid Hoffman's uncomfortable?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Gates.
And Gates.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes total sense as to why so much money has been pumped into the Demon Rat Party, in addition to money going towards these censorship initiatives. You know what they say, birds of a feather flock together, and you shouldn't be shocked or surprised that Harry is closely aligned with Reid Hoffman as well. If anybody remembers, back in 2021, Harry gladly went on Reid Hoffman's podcast to talk about mental health. And Reid Hoffman definitely returned the favor by supporting Better Up. They're one cozy group of people. But something tells me that's not the only time that Harry was engaged with Reid Hoffman. You see, back in 2017, Reid Hoffman had funded fake Twitter accounts with Russian sounding names during the Senate runoff election in Alabama, which resulted in a narrow loss for Republican candidate Roy Moore. And you know who was a part of creating those Russian bots to link Russia to Roy Moore in the Alabama election? Well, that would be Renee DiResta. So you have Reid Hoffman funding these bots, and then you have Renee DiResta caught up in being a part of who created these bots that actually sabotaged this election. In Michael Schellenberger's testimony to Congress dated March 9, 2022, they detail the events surrounding this Alabama election, where it says here, the memo says it planted the idea that the Moore campaign was amplified on social media by a Russian botnet. We then tied that botnet to the Moore campaign digital director, making it appear as if he had purchased the accounts. There is much that is notable about this tactic. First, it evoked the same narrative that was being used against President Trump at the time, that the Russians were supporting him. As such, it was aimed at delegitimation, which DiResta had condemned in other contexts. Second, it actually used the tactic of bots that DiResta would describe as information war in her Senate testimony. Journalists downplayed DiResta's involvement and even seemed to joke about it. Consider the exchange at Aspen Institute event in 2018. DiResta says, I have a bunch of accounts that pay attention to anti-vax content. My anti-vax accounts that were active in anti-vax groups, just listening, just sitting in on those accounts, ... Nicholas Thompson says, The Atlantic, how many bot accounts do you run? And Renee DiResta says, no comment. I would like a complete tally of Renee DiResta's sock puppet accounts by the end of this panel, and laughter, ha 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 ha. So now who remembers in 2019 when these bots came onto the scene and the Sussex squad all of a sudden started to vomit all over Twitter? And then in 2020, right before the election, these bots seemed to have multiplied by the thousands, to which they were going after people left and right, trying to shut down people's voices, conservative voices. We all remember this. Could it be that maybe Renee DiResta had something to do with this and is linked to the Sussex squad? And could it be that maybe Reid Hoffman also too might be linked to this and might have been one who was funding this? At this point, anything is possible, especially if this guy has been involved with an election before in funding and doing this kind of thing to influence and change outcomes, I shall say. I don't know, folks. This is all very cozy and coincidental, don't you think? Kind of says a lot when you see these photos that have been uploaded to truemedia.org about the royals, and they all come back listed as uncertain, unable to be told whether they are manipulated or indeed legitimate. But for Harry and Meghan, photos that we know that have been artificially generated, like this one with little Betty, and then the one that Misan took overseas, have not been altered or digitized? Nah. For it to come back and say that there's little evidence of manipulation, to me, I'm calling foul bullshit. And that's the thing with the bias of this tool. It uses insights, meaning pulling media articles that are out there in order to verify. And as we know, how Harry and Meghan have saturated the media with nothing but fake stuff, obviously it's going to skew the reading, because if those articles or those publications or media outlets are being used to weigh in and conclude whether or not the video or photograph is real or fake, this is going to be a big problem. And unfortunately, I don't have another tool that I'm aware of that I could have ran these photos up against to see if there were similar outcomes like what I did with the video yesterday. My sentiment still stays the same. I don't trust this tool as far as I can see it, because of not only the partnerships that they have involved, but as well as the people, as you clearly understand why. So, it'll be interesting to see how this develops because there are going to be more tools like this. So, it's going to be important that we do pay attention to who are backing these companies in order to understand what their agenda and motive is. In this case, I fully believe that this tool will be used to manipulate people in the way of generating an output that is solely based off of insights that are coming from media outlets that have been lying to us this whole entire time. So you're kind of defeating the point and purpose of getting to the truth. But, those that don't know will see this as a free tool and will use it and trust it. And there we go. But what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.